William looked around once again. He promised himself that he needed to clean up, but these thoughts only came in the morning when he was getting ready for work. In the evening, he would come home with a bottle of vodka, quickly drink it, and collapse into sleep. He had been living at exactly this pace for a year now, maybe a little longer, precisely since the moment when Natasha left him and drove away to the city for a better life. William had met her in a neighboring village at a disco. He had never seen her before. Girls never left him alone because he was a handsome guy. Moreover, he worked at a farming enterprise, as the former collective farms that had suddenly become private properties were now fashionably called. William earned very well, and all because he was considered almost the best tractor operator, driver, and combine harvester in the enterprise. There wasn't a piece of equipment he couldn't operate well. The men would sigh and say that any metal obeyed William. William lived alone. The grandmother who raised him died as soon as he turned 18, as if she had been waiting specifically for that moment. No one thought that after finishing his studies, the young man would return to the village, but he did return. He built a big house and worked like a man possessed. He didn't look at girls, firmly deciding to first get on his feet so he wouldn't be ashamed to bring a wife home. From childhood, he understood what it meant to go hungry and sleepless because his grandmother saved firewood and the house was very cold. But then, as soon as he saw Natasha, he nearly went mad. They had their wedding quickly. Natasha really liked the young man, and she liked even more that she could finally leave her large family, where she was the eldest, and therefore had to help constantly. He spoiled her greatly, buying her such outfits that had never been seen in the village. She got used to the good life and didn't engage in housework because her hands might get rough, because it was hard work, and for many other reasons, because Natasha was comfortable. They lived like this for 3 years. Then one fine day, his wife declared, "William, how long are we going to sit here? All people are developing, moving to the city, and we're just rotting in the village." William didn't even understand what she was talking about then. "I never said I wanted to go to the city, and you never said so either. Where do these conversations suddenly come from?" "Well, I definitely don't want to rot in the village my whole life. I hope you're not planning to force me to do this." William raised his eyebrows. "I don't understand something. You're from the village yourself. You've lived here your whole life. Where has this suddenly pulled you? Especially now when we can live so well. Just wait, I'll bring water into the house. It'll be just like a city apartment." Natasha stood up and nervously paced around the room. "God, how dense you are! What does water have to do with theatres, cafes, culture, after all?" That day they quarrelled. William couldn't restrain himself first and called his wife names, then left. Later, of course, they made up and didn't return to the conversation. But 3 weeks later, he didn't find Natasha when he returned from work. On the table was only a note saying that she had met a person who understood her, with whom she would live in the city. Natasha also wrote that she had taken the money that William had been saving in a little box, writing that this was her compensation for wasting her best years on him. From that day, William changed his lifestyle. First, he sold all the livestock, and then he let the house fall into disrepair. No one suspected for a while what was happening to him, but then rumors began to spread. He still went to work, but he had already received a couple of warnings for smelling of alcohol. He didn't respond. He just took not half a bottle that day when his boss had the conversation with him, but 2 full bottles at once. William sighed and looked around again. Oh, how he wanted to close his eyes to all this. A couple of times he even started cleaning, but the first time he came across Natasha's hairpin and the second time their wedding album. So he abandoned the task. He went outside and shivered. The frost was so severe it stung his nose. Again he would have to struggle to start his tractor. How many times had he argued with his boss that the watchman doesn't heat their garage? "Excuse me," he startled. It was still dark outside, and he certainly didn't expect to hear an unfamiliar voice at this time, especially in his own yard. He turned sharply. In front of him stood either a woman or a girl, and behind her a child huddled close. "My God, what are you doing here so early in such frost, and with a child too?" The female figure somehow indefinitely shrugged her shoulders. It just happened this way. Could you tell me if we can find shelter with someone for a while? Johnny is completely exhausted. Only we don't have any money. William tried to peer into her face. She seemed quite young, though he could be mistaken. Knowing his fellow villagers, he could assume they would more likely call the police than take in some vagrant for the night. William cast a quick glance at the child, who was huddled against the woman. The boy was no more than 5 years old. Then he looked at his watch. No, he wouldn't help anyone if William was late. Everyone would immediately decide it was because of drinking. He stuck his hand in his pocket and pulled out his house keys. Here, take these. Go to my house. I'll return after 6. The house is warm. If you get cold, you can light the stove. There should be food too. Well, there should be. God knows. Only it's a mess there. I don't have time for anything. Don't show yourselves outside too much, or there will be too many questions for you. That's it. I'm running. I don't have time. He gave the keys to the bewildered stranger and rushed along the path toward the garages. Somehow, not even a thought arose that these were strangers who might rob him. The day flew by quickly. Anxiety appeared in the evening when he habitually turned toward the store but didn't stop. He took his usual half bottle, though he added some candy. He wasn't sure if his guests were still waiting for him. There was light on in the house. This was so unusual and unfamiliar that William felt some tightness in his chest. He carefully approached the window and looked into the house. William's face stretched. He saw only part of the room, but it was enough to understand. There was simply perfect order there. Everything was so neat and clean. On the sofa under a blanket sat a young woman and boy looking at some book. William looked closer and sighed sadly. At one time, when there was still hope that Natasha would bear him a child, he had bought up all the children's books from the village store. Now they were gathering dust in stacks near the sofa on the floor. When his wife left, he wanted to throw them away, but his hand wouldn't rise to do it. And from the house came the smell of food, such a forgotten aroma that William involuntarily swallowed. He looked at the bottle in his hands and quickly hid it. The young woman jumped up when he entered and blushed. "Hello, excuse us. Johnny and I did a little housekeeping. I made dinner." William was also confused. He had no idea that the vagrant he had pitied in the morning could turn out to be a very pretty young woman. "I wouldn't refuse dinner. I'm just terribly hungry." She rushed to set the table, and William took off his shoes and clothes and went to the little boy. He extended his hand to him. "William." The boy smiled and carefully extended his little palm. "Here, Johnny, take this. Little ones love sweets." The boy looked questioningly at the woman, who barely noticeably nodded her head. Only after that did the child take the treat. William sat at the table, inhaled the aroma of hot borscht, and even closed his eyes with pleasure. Only after the plate was empty did he look at his guest, who was waiting for his words. "This was incredibly delicious," she smiled. "Thank you. Probably we need to move on. We've already abused your hospitality." William raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Are you in a hurry somewhere?" "No, we have nowhere to hurry." Anna, that was the young woman's name, came out to him from the room where she had put Johnny to bed an hour later and sat at the table. William got up and poured tea for her and himself. She thanked him and looked at him with huge blue eyes. "Don't think we're some kind of homeless people. It's just that everything somehow turned out wrong. Once I went to study and made a very big mistake by trusting one guy. No, I don't regret anything because I have Johnny. But I had to return to the village to my mother, who had married a young man at that time. My mother wasn't happy about my return. As I later understood, she was afraid for her young husband. Johnny was born, and everything seemed to normalize more or less, though I couldn't get a job because my mother hung all the household work on me. Living without your own money is somehow not very pleasant, but my so-called stepfather bought everything for Johnny and me. I didn't need anything. But then my stepfather decided that my mother was too old for him, and I was much more suitable. I immediately told him off, excuse me, but somehow my mother found out everything and decided that only I was to blame, that I was supposedly flirting around. and my own mother, together with my stepfather, decided that for a complete family they lacked my Johnny, and I needed to be thrown out. My mother said that depriving me of parental rights would be easy. I have no job, I'm living off them, and everything else can be made up. So here I am, avoiding that. But I'm sure they'll look for us. My mother won't calm down just like that. William thoughtfully stirred his spoon. Here's what, Anna. Live with me for now, until we figure something out. I'm hardly ever home anyway, so you won't inconvenience me at all, and I'll find out what's what. In a week, William even forgot that he used to drink in the evenings at all. Now he was making something with Johnny, and they read together. The house was clean and warm. Anna spoiled them with delicious dinners. This was exactly the life William had always dreamed of. It was just a pity that all this wasn't his. One day he was hurrying home from work when his neighbor called out to him, "Can I congratulate you?" He was even frightened. "On what?" "Your Natasha returned already 2 hours ago." William paled. Anna and Johnny were there. He ran home. Natasha was sitting on the sofa in a beautiful pose. She looked at him offendedly. There was no Anna or Johnny. Where were they? Natasha pursed her lips offendedly. "I don't understand. Where's the joy at our meeting?" She was confident in herself and her charms. In 2 steps, William covered the distance to the sofa and jerked her up. "I asked where they are," she screamed in fright. "How should I know?" "They went somewhere. I don't know. Home, probably." William let her go and rushed to the door. At the door, he stopped. "When I return, don't let me find a trace of you here." Natasha looked at him in amazement. She understood he wasn't joking. But how could this be? She was sure that William would cry with joy. William understood that an hour had passed, maybe more. They couldn't have gone far. It was already getting dark outside. He ran through the village toward the garages, almost praying that his boss would be there. He would take the equipment anyway and let them arrest him. His boss was there, listened to William's confused story, and nodded toward his Jeep. "Here, take it. It has better cross-country ability than your tractor, and speed, of course." "Thank you, Sergey. I'll be quick. Go already. Let me know if you need help. I'll do everything to return the person who brought you back to life." William saw them under a tree 5 kilometers from the village. He braked sharply and rushed to them. "Anna, what are you doing? Don't you think about yourself? And you should have thought about Johnny." Anna sobbed on his shoulder. "You understand. She said that she's your wife, that you love her, and she also said that people like us have no right to life at all." Anna said much more, and he thought only about the fact that nothing had happened to them. When the stream of tears subsided a little, William said decisively, "Tomorrow we'll file an application. I'll look after you so you don't do anything else foolish." Anna didn't object, just pressed closer to him. Johnny smiled and asked, "Will you be my dad then?" "That's right." Johnny looked at him for a minute, then hugged both him and his mother with his little arms. On the day they got married, guests came to them, Anna's mother and her husband. "Well, hello, Johnny. Quickly get ready. It's time for us to go home. And this wayward one, I hope, will be sent where she belongs." Anna turned pale. Johnny pressed against her. William stood up. "Who are you to appear in my house without knocking?" The woman cast a glance at him. "The parents of this good-for-nothing. She probably told you all sorts of lies. Don't believe her. One more word, and I'll throw you out." It was quiet for a minute, then the door slammed. The young husband of the mother had left. She rushed after him. "If you like the story, please support me with a thumbs up. It's just one click for you, but it's very important to me. Thank you."